Anyway, it's like a world of difference between the north and the south. North Nevada and southern Las Vegas with the temperature, it's getting hot. Um, Now, if we weren't plaster, we'd probably go for a swim, but we just want to briefly discuss this idea. Our theory is a two-level theory, basically the idea about the footsteps. So if we're talking about phantoms and poltergeist, that kind of stuff, we're total atheists about that. Um, but there were times in the many treks where we turned around, you kind of hear like you hear something. Was it footsteps? You feel like there's a presence behind you. Then you turn around, there's nothing. So our explanation is this. So on one level, it's going to do with our human psychology. Anywhere you're alone by instinct, hopefully you have that instinct. You should that's a sign of healthy instinct because to basically watching out for any natural predators. The second thing is you do hear basically stuff on the ground. Usually, most of the time, that's a lizard, that's the wind, but many times we turn around, just out of instinct. But basically, yeah, it turns out there's nothing. But here's what we wanted. The core message, we feel like so the whole thing about mountain lions and stuff, basically coyotes are real. We love the coyotes. We only pray and hope that one day we wish we could have seen a mountain lion. The luckiest thing we saw was the coyotes and the beautiful bighorn sheep. Bighorn sheep. Not in the namesake of sheep range, ironically. But basically, these are like public lands. People are free to hike. But what we want to say is that the probably safety-wise, the most important thing is watching out for the steep drop-offs. So there's steep drop-offs and canyons and little cliffs. They're nothing like what you will see in the film The Alpinist, of course. But at minimum, we basically whether it's a climbing helmet or just a makeshift hard hat. The hard hat's kind of useful because even today you can kind of turn the bill around where the sun is. It kind of acts as an imperfect sun shield. Something's better than nothing. But basically, there were many times where basically having head protection, that's a lifesaver. Basically we would have bumped we would have had a bloodied forehead from jagged rocks, twigs, branches. But mainly, the stuff we had before, it was all dented and banged up, and it's useful to have. That's just our perspective. But lastly, we think that these grounds, these beautiful nature, is a beautiful place to hike, and it has not totally apart from Kenny. Why do you think Kenny was hiking this? There were people before him hiking. It's a beautiful ground. It's a beautiful place. But here's the thing. Don't do what Kenny did. This whole thing, testing yourself. Don't bring a whole lot of, basically, you always want to bring ample provisions. The last thing you want to be doing is underestimating the provisions and basically where you're taking small strategic sips, just consciously breathing through your nose with a kind of silly idea that, well, perhaps true that you're, exhaling more moisture if you exhale through your mouth, but all right, that's a silly point there. But provisions, safety, that's all important. So, again, respect the rocks, respect the cliffs, respect the rocks because, you have to respect the rocks. Now that's so that's why we always wear head protection. You don't want to get a concussion. You don't want to bash your head against a rock. So you're not going to be sucked in by an alien, by a monster. But you do need to very much respect rocks. And we think if anybody's doing any scrambling where you'll encounter 2 or 3 several steep drop-offs, we think hard head protection, PP, that's a must because again, uh, our own scrambling gear, that thing is dented. Maybe we're clumsy. Maybe we're clumsy. Maybe others are better, but we can just, attest for ourselves that that darn hard hat is a lifesaver, absolute lifesaver. Well, that's it for now.